Hi, Enrico. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Gilbert. How are you?
Great. Market is very active still. A lot of roller coaster ride, but I think things is still a pretty positive overall market for the juniors. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're still in very much a bull market for commodities, hard assets, precious metals, base metals. I think we're coming into a bit of a deglobalization period where countries are starting to wonder where they actually source their raw materials to produce everything that consumers like to consume. And I think we're going to be in this kind of global context now for many years to come. So I think ultimately it's also good for the smaller companies looking and hunting for these mineral discoveries.
Sure. We can talk more about copper later on. So let's start with you talking, give us a bit of an overview about your company, Algo
Yeah,
Grande Copper first.
yeah. So Algo Grande Copper was a company that was started by myself and two other partners. One of them is a geologist with a lot of experience, worked for some of the biggest mining companies in the world, including BHP, Exploro. Really, we had a thesis for copper being the right commodity to build an exploration and ultimately a development company around. So we chose copper as the commodity we wanted to go after. We were looking at a variety of projects over the last 2 years, but what we were looking for was not easy to find. So we were looking for something that a project that already had a discovery of copper. That discovery needed to be high grade, so north of 1% copper, and it needed to have the potential to scale and to become large, meaningful for potentially mining companies, mid-tiers, and larger mining companies to be interested in that asset. So we saw a lot of different projects. Ultimately, we landed through the guidance of Peter McGaw, who was the founder of Mag Silver, which was acquired last year for $2.1 billion US dollars by Pan American Silver. Peter brought us this project. It's in the right place in Mexico, in Sonora. It's the place that produces more of the copper ever in the most copper in Mexico. And it's close to the Guaymas deep sea water port, where all of the copper produced makes its way actually to smelters in Asia, mainly China and Japan. So it's the right place to be, really high grade, in some places up to 7% copper equivalent. And ultimately, we believe it's going to be of significant scale. So we bought the project and we started Algo Grande Copper, the company. Yeah.
Good to know. So let's talk a bit about copper now. You mentioned how the countries try to look source for the materials. So as the copper demand continues to grow along with the electrification and other demands, and how do you view the outlook for the copper, and how does your project, Adelita, is going to position to benefit from it?
Yeah, I think the copper market is at a very interesting inflection point. I think overall, very big macro. I think copper is you know probably in the last innings of a prolonged consolidation phase before actually picking up significant momentum and the price of copper as a global commodity will probably see that rise in the next five years. When it comes to within the smaller context of copper production and copper production in North America, the Arizona Sonoran Porphyry copper belt is where all the copper in North America is coming from. The northern part of this district is in Arizona, the southern part is in Sonora, and you have like two or three of the largest copper mines in the world are located actually here. Caridad and Buenavista, owned by Southern Copper Grupo Mexico. For your audience, I think they will know those names. Those are the largest copper porphyry mines in North America. And they are running low-grade copper. They're massive projects. They work really well for big mining companies, such as Southern Copper, Grupo Mexico, BHP. But they are running low-grade copper, 0.3, 0.4% rock. So within this context, a project like ours that is running up to 7% copper equivalent, on average, we see 1.4% copper on the project and discovery holes. This is a good time. It's a good time to be a small company like us, fully focused on one project, low monthly cost G&A, fully committed to expanding the project, continuing to expand the discovery of this high-grade skarn copper system that sits in a very, very developed copper belt that has this massive infrastructure set up for copper, but our neighbors are producing low-grade copper. They're processing, low-grade copper rock. So we think that within the dynamics of copper prices going up, grades and the mine of these larger mines all around us are going down. So the age these projects are very old. The grades are dropping. So having a new discovery that's very high grade is going to be very beneficial for our company.
So let's talk a bit about your approach and execution. So you're advancing Adelita, your project, with a data-driven exploration approach, including some of the geophysical and geochemical programs. So how does these efforts improve in overall in finding more copper?
Yeah. So in the business of exploration, it's all about de-risking your drill holes, because drilling is the most expensive thing an exploration company will do. And it's the bulk of the money that it has, it will go to drilling. So making sure that your drill holes are successful, that you drill in the right places, that you don't essentially, miss a hole and waste your money. You have to do a lot of science and collect a lot of data before you make the decisions as to where to drill those holes. So one of the things so we're very big believers that you have to go through the scientific process of collecting the data the right way. The first thing that we did when we bought this project, because this project has, we weren't the ones to discover it. It was discovered by Minorum Gold about 10 years ago or so, over 10 years ago. And this project came with a lot of license-wide surveys, like you mentioned, license-wide mag survey, license-wide IP. But the data was kind of old and not in the best form. So first thing we did is we reprocessed all of the geophysics and magnetics that we had on the project, and we reprocessed it in 3D using the latest technology available. And we came up with some pretty interesting observations. For example, we discovered a very large-scale resistivity below the high-grade skarn zone that could be the feeder zone, the porphyry essentially that created the skarn. So using new technology to reprocess old data, that's the first thing we did. Now moving forward, we're doing a detailed drone magnetic survey. We're doing a LiDAR survey. We're continuing a large-scale geochemical soil sample survey over the skarn. And we'll be collecting all that data. And then we'll also be reprocessing using artificial intelligence to see if it can come up with some additional intelligence that we may be able to use. Ultimately, all of this goes towards really filtering and finalizing drill targets for our next phase of drilling, which will begin in mid-May of 2026.
Yes, let's talk about some of your recent, right? You mentioned about the high grade, you have the skarn discovery there, proven more additional mineralization for the property. So does it suggest that Adelitas have the potential to become more like a district scale system?
Yes. So when we bought the project, we saw the immediate sort of value driver was the flagship discovery, which is the Cerro Grande copper gold silver skarn. which received a roughly 7,000 meters worth of drilling. That's where you get intercepts that are 75 meters at 1.4% copper, half a gram per ton gold, and up to 200 grams per ton silver. So that's a meaningful discovery. That is the main sort of flagship value driver. However, along this license, we have a 6 kilometer corridor, a limestone corridor. Limestone is the host rock where skarn mineralization, which is this high grade type of deposit that forms through a hydrothermal process again. And when you have a 6 kilometer limestone corridor, it creates a very unique situation in which you could have multiple skarns on that corridor. So yes, you could have a district scale system here where you may end up with multiple skarn discoveries. We actually tracked one on the surface when our geologists were on a reconnaissance mission in January of 2026. They found an outcropping skarn 3 kilometers away from Cerro Grande, the flagship, and that outcrops for 300 meters. And they took surface rock samples and they graded over 3% copper. So we're going to be drilling. We're going to have two drills working on site. One is going to be focused on the Cerro Grande flagship skarn discovery, and the other drill rig will be going along the 6 kilometer corridor, trying to find additional skarn deposits, because ultimately we can probably group all of these skarns, if we were to find more than one, into one resource, 143-101 resource, right? That's the mission. In the next 2 years, we want to put together a resource. And if we can group sort of multiple skarns along this corridor into one resource that's focused on the high-grade skarn part of the system, that would be very valuable to shareholders. And then, of course, we have the porphyry potential at depth, which is potentially the cause and the reason for the high-grade skarn mineralization. If we're able to prove that as well, then I would say you're starting to look at a very, very significant scalable copper district scale copper discovery, multiple deposit, use skarn porphyry. Yeah.
It's getting exciting. And so let's touch upon some of the corporate stuff here on your company. You recently raised a bit over $6.5 million in the financing. Can you highlight some of the key shareholders along with this financing to continue to support your exploration and growth plan?
Yeah. So as part of this new phase of growth for the company, we've brought in, so we already had Peter McGaw as an advisor, who's the founder of Meg Silver. We now brought in also Raymond Hannas, who is a Harvard PhD geologist, a porphyry and epithermal deposit specialist, and he will lead the CEO, founder of Atex Resources, which your viewers can look up. Is a very, very successful copper porphyry exploration play now in development stage. We then raised $6.5 million. Of that, we had a significant larger tranche of that was committed to by an institution. So sophisticated investors that took part of our financing, which is a very good sign for a company at an early stage like us, a new company, to be able to already be owned by an institution is definitely something we're very grateful and happy with. And we also had a number of wealth managers actually own stock and own shares in our private placement. And we also had an institution from Switzerland. So it's a really good shareholder base of investors that are not just looking to make a quick return, but are actually committed to the true vision and the true mission behind this company, which is to ultimately delineate a very significant copper system. We also did the financing without a warrant. So it was a straight share 4-month hold private placement. For your viewers that are often involved in private placement, they will know that to do a financing without a warrant is not typical of an exploration company at our stage. Usually companies have to give that sort of additional incentive to convince people to come along for the investment. But we believe that part of what makes us very interesting is maintaining a clean structure, not having any warrants in our structure, and actually having a company that if we're able to execute operationally on the ground, can significantly re-rate and reevaluate to maximize shareholder growth and value. So that's yeah.
Comes to our last question for you here today. You talked about re-rate just now, so just about to ask you what kind of valuation are you thinking right now? You believe your company undervalued? And what kind of milestones are you thinking so the investors can continue to follow your company and potentially into a higher valuation down the road?
Yeah, I think in order to answer that question, we have to talk about catalysts. So what is going to happen next? Well, we're about to receive the data from the detailed drone and LiDAR surveys, as well as the geochemical soil sample program. We're going to take all of that data. We're going to come out with drill targets sometime in April. In May, we're going to start drilling phase two, which will be roughly 8 to 10,000 meters. We'll have two drill rigs working at once. I believe that after this round of drilling, we have a really good grip and a really good understanding of the geology. And I believe that after this round of drilling, our market cap could be much higher. The reason for that is if you were to look at potential comparables, when you have these type of higher grade, slightly lower tonnage but high grade copper deposits in the range of anywhere between 20 to 50 million tons above 1%, you're usually looking at companies with a market cap north of 100 million US dollars. We're currently at a $30 million Canadian. So I think there is ample room for growth.
Great. Thank you for your time here with us here today, Enrico. I hope to speak with you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gilbert. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you
Thank
too.
you.
Take
Thank you.
care. Bye.